Hi everyone, it's Laura from Women's Health Physiotherapy Center, and our next speaker is going to be Julie. She's a health, nutrition, and life coach, and Julie's going to be speaking on gut and digestive health and how what we eat can impact all aspects of our lives.
Hi there, this is Julie with Balanced Life with Julie, and what I'm going to be talking about is gut health. Gut health is actually really important for overall health and well-being, and hopefully you've been hearing more and more about the importance of gut health. But in this video, what I'm going to do is talk about some of the other systems in the body that become affected when our gut is off. What are the things that are happening in our life that might be contributing to poor gut health, and then how you can actually deal with your gut and make sure that it's healthy and that you're feeling good. So the two systems in our body three systems in our body that it really impacts if we have poor gut health is elimination. So we may not be, our digestive system, so you may not be actually eliminating waste from your body properly if your gut is not in a good state. The other thing is our brain and our mood are really affected by our gut, because most of the serotonin in our body actually isn't in our brain, it's actually housed in our gut. And then lastly, our immune system. So 65% of our immune system resides in the gut. So when things are not going well with our gut, it actually affects our ability to fight off illness and whatever viruses might be floating around. So it's actually really important to take care of your gut, because the more you take care of your gut and the gut bacteria, the better you're going to feel in your body. So there are roughly 300 to 500 different types of microorganisms that live in our gut, and actually we're more microorganism and bacteria than we are actually human. If anything, one of the things that I would invite you to think about microorganism in our relationships with microorganisms is to think of it as the symbiotic relationship. We need the gut bacteria to actually be thriving and to be functioning well in order for us to thrive. We're more like a host for gut bacteria, for bacteria and microorganisms. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, that there needs to be this symbiotic relationship, and the more variety of gut bacteria you have, the better it is. So there are certain things that most people consume that are not good for overall gut health. So they're the same kinds of foods and lifestyle things that are also not good for our health in general. So number one I would put on the list would be processed foods. So processed foods have a lot of added additives, chemicals, dyes, and that's really not good for overall gut health. A lot of fried food is not good for gut health. Alcohol in excess, sugar. Sugar is actually a really how should I put it? It's not great for gut bacteria. What it does is it actually feeds the bad bacteria in your gut, and it eliminates the good bacteria. And what happens when we're feeding that bad bacteria is it actually starts to impact our mood, because remember what I said at the top of the video, most of the serotonin in our body, that feel-good chemical, it actually resides in our gut. So when we're not taking care of that good bacteria, when we're feeding the bad bacteria, then our mood starts to become impacted. And sugar is one of those things, and I get a lot of people talking to me like, out of all the things that people have a hard time with, sugar is probably one of the number one things, mostly because they're not aware of how much sugar they're consuming, and they're also not understanding like how much of an impact it has on their body and on their overall health and well-being. So sugar invites inflammation in our body. It feeds that bad bacteria. It affects mood, it affects sleep, it affects like if you have aches and pains and kind of chronic aches and pains and you're consuming a lot of sugar, then definitely one of the ways you can feel better is to actually cut out all sugar. And by that I mean processed sugar. I don't mean sugar that is naturally occurring in fruit. That is a whole different story. But most people don't realize how much sugar they consume in like processed foods that they're having, even things that they may perceive as healthy, like a salad dressing. Salad dressing can be loaded full of sugar. So just keeping that in mind, like sugar is really, really not good for gut health. The other thing is we tend to be sitting, like I'm here doing this little presentation and I'm sitting. And sitting for many, many hours of the day is not really great for gut health. It's actually not great for your body in general because our body needs movement in order to thrive. So sitting, just being stationary or being in one position for a long period of time is not great. The other thing to keep in mind is that stress. Stress is really, really not good for gut health. And you can feel that like in your body. If you tune into your body and you get stressed out about something, like people talk about having butterflies in their stomach. What's happening is that the bacteria in your gut is actually changing. There is a chemical reaction that's happening, and that'll tend to trigger other things in the body. Like there might be an emotional response, there could be a thought response where your brain goes into this space where you're thinking all of these things that are maybe negative and not helpful and causing more stress to build up in the system. So stress, I would say out of the two things, if I had to pick, like stress and sugar are kind of my top two things that you want to be aware of and mindful of, and making sure that you're keeping those things in check. So I think I pretty much covered everything. This is sort of an overview of gut health. The other thing you want to be aware of is if you're having certain chemicals in your food, it does affect the gut lining. So leaky gut is a very sort of common thing that's going on, and it ties back to the type of food we're eating. It's not uncommon for more and more people to have immune disorders, and that also traces back to the food that we're eating and the state of our gut health. So these are things that you want to be aware of. And I know that sometimes it's easier to ignore stuff or to put things off, but I would urge you to actually, if you're experiencing gas, bloating, indigestion, chronic fatigue, if you're having mysterious aches and pains in your body, if you're not having proper elimination every single day, then that's a sign that your gut health is off, and you want to make sure that you address it. Some of the other disorders that poor gut health is linked to is skin disorders. So if we're eating foods that are not great, then obviously it's going to have an effect on every system in our body. And it's not uncommon, I'll see people who have rosacea, or they'll have like psoriasis, or just certain things going on. And as soon as we look at the diet and we clean up the diet and we support good gut health, then magically those conditions go away. So if you have certain chronic conditions in your body, you want to be paying attention to those conditions. Rather than ignoring them, start to address them. And I do understand that it can seem very overwhelming at first, but if you just take it step by step, be very patient with yourself, be very kind with yourself, then you'll start to see some transformation. And generally what I tell people is, if you've been dealing with chronic conditions for years and years and years, and then you start to chart a new course in terms of your health, you want to make sure that you give it a good 6 months, like good 6 months of you really trying a new protocol, doing it to the best of your ability, and then observing how your body responds. A lot of times we get very impatient, so it's important to have lots of patience for yourself and lots of kindness. So I've kind of covered like some of the conditions, I've covered some of the problems that you might experience, and the foods that contribute to that. And a lot of times when people are experiencing gut issues, they run to the health food store and they just get a probiotic, and not realizing that most probiotics actually don't work. If you kind of sit and you think about it, like everybody's gut and the bacteria and the microorganisms that live in their gut, it's unique to that individual. It's based partially on their mother and whatever kind of gut bacteria they got from like in the womb. And then it's conditioned by what they might have been eating and how they've been living their life. So those things, like you can't just, because it's unique to each individual, you can't just go to a health food store, take a pill and think that it's going to resolve the issue. Now, what tends to happen with a lot of probiotics is they don't actually seed with the bacteria that's already existing. You just actually end up just, excuse the term, you just end up pooping it out. So nothing takes hold, and that's why it's really, really important to understand that most of the probiotics out there actually do very little for overall gut health. Not to say none of them work, but very, very few. It's kind of the same idea as supplements. There's a lot of really not great supplements out there, and the number of companies that support have really good supplements are very few. I can probably count them on one hand, right? So and then some of the things that you want to be adding to your diet in order to deal with gut health issues is a lot of people don't get enough fiber. You want to be having more like vegetables in your diet, and if you're somebody who's not used to having a lot of vegetables, like in the beginning, you're probably going to need to go slowly, start to slowly implement and add vegetables to each meal so that the bacteria in your gut adjusts, it changes, and then so you start to crowd out that bad bacteria and you start to feed the good bacteria. In terms of vegetables that I think are really, really good, like broccoli is amazing. Broccoli is a superfood. So definitely broccoli is really good. You want to add some fermented foods as well. Those are really good to have on a daily basis, or at least every other day. Resistant starches are good. One of the tricks in terms of feeding good bacteria is you can take brown rice, cook it, cool it, and then have it cool, because what happens is when it's cooled, it becomes a resistant starch, meaning that your body doesn't digest it, but when it's going through your digestive tract, it will feed the good bacteria. Okay, so that's what we want. We want to nourish the good bacteria. We want to crowd out the bad guys, and you'll start to feel it, like especially if you start eliminating sugar, especially, then you'll start to notice that difference in your body of like how you feel energy wise. Another thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is that most of us are actually we're lactose intolerant. Like a majority of the human population can't tolerate dairy, and if you're having dairy and it's causing digestive upset and you have skin issues, chances are it's related to dairy. So I would definitely say if you have gut issues going on, cut out dairy, cut out sugar, like added and refined sugar. Give your body a break and see what happens with your gut. Add resistant starches. Beans and lentils are great. A lot of the reason that people have difficulty with beans and lentils is they're not used to having it. There is a little adjustment period that our gut microbiome needs to go through. So if you're introducing foods that you don't normally have, like whether it's vegetables, beans, lentils, that kind of stuff, just go in like start adding small portion sizes. So add like, a quarter cup with each meal. Give your body some time to adjust. Give that bacteria in your gut time to adjust. And then you can look at over time starting to increase it. You do want to make sure that over a period of time that you're eating more and more plants. That's really, really important because there's a lot of vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, micronutrients that are in plants that are good for overall gut health, and that's missing in our meat and dairy foods. So if you are eating a lot of meat and dairy, then you're missing all kinds of nutrients that your gut needs in order to thrive. So you want to be upping the vegetables and upping your resistant starches. So drinking more water is also really, really important. Most people are chronically dehydrated and they don't realize it. So they might be having lots of coffee or lattes and that kind of stuff. But what coffee functions as is it's a diuretic. So it actually pulls water out of our body. You want to be drinking, and now this is what I've used for years and years as a measurement to figure out how much water should I drink. A liter of water for every 50 pounds you weigh. So that's 50. So for most people, that's about 3 liters a day. You don't drink it all at once. You want to kind of space it out over the course of the day. And you also want to make sure that you're not drinking your water with meals, because what that does is it dilutes the nutrients. You want to be having some water. Actually have water before your meal, like half an hour before your meal, have some water. The other cool thing is, if you are trying to shed some excess weight, is if you have some water before your meal, you'll actually take up some of that space in your stomach and you'll naturally tend to eat less, which will actually help you to shed weight. So just a little FYI. You want to focus also, just to go quickly back to eliminating certain foods, you want to focus on eliminating or avoiding sugar, dairy, processed foods, fried foods. Those are things that you want to be looking at first thing to reduce or completely eliminate, especially if you have serious gut issues or you find that you get sick all the time. Those are things you want to be looking at. Supporting the good bacteria in your gut as well as repairing the gut lining. This is really, really important. So you can support the good bacteria in your gut and repair the gut lining. There is a product that I use with my clients that's been very, very effective for that. And on top of that, it also pulls out the toxins and the chemicals out of their gut as well. Lastly, I get this question a lot, like organic versus non-organic foods. I would say that you want to be non-GMO and getting as much organic foods into your body as possible. The chemicals that we consume have an effect on our health and our well-being. And I know from a price standpoint, it seems cheaper to buy the stuff that's not organic. But in the long run, if you're suffering with chronic health issues or down the line you end up with a serious illness, you're actually the person who ends up losing. So invest that little extra bit and get as much organic food as you can. It's not possible at this time to get 100% organic, but as much as you can, you want to be bringing more organic foods into your body, because what will happen is that it will reduce the toxic load on your body, which will make it easier, not just on your gut, but on every system in your body. It will make it easier. You'll feel the difference over time. And on top of that, you're not continuing, because it's really hard for our body to heal if we're continually putting not great things into our system. So you want to be, on the one hand, you want to eliminate or reduce your exposure, but you also want to allow your body to heal. This is really important, and allow your gut to heal. So that's kind of like broad strokes of the gut. We could talk much more about it. It is a very big topic. However, if you do have questions, you can definitely reach out to me. I have individual and group coaching. I also have an online program called Bye Bye Sugar, which looks at eliminating added and refined sugar, dairy, soy, gluten, corn, alcohol, caffeine, all of these things that cause not only upset for our gut, but they actually cause inflammation in our body. So overwhelmingly, the response with Bye Bye Sugar is people do end up feeling so much better, starting to really connect with that natural energy they have versus needing coffee. And some people have come to me, they've had chronic aches and pains that they've tried doing physio or doing other things for, and as soon as they've gone on Bye Bye Sugar, once they've gone past day 5 or 6, they feel the difference in their body. So yeah, I have online programs, I have group and individual coaching. You can definitely reach out to me, message me your questions. I'm always happy to share information. Be sure that you check out my website, balancelifewithjulie.com. I hope you found this video to be helpful, and enjoy it, share it, and I will see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you for attending our first online Durham Women's Summit. It was a real pleasure to bring together some very talented women and care providers from our community. Please don't forget to download the free gifts and bonuses from the talks that you heard over the past 2 days, and to check out the clinics and the community programs from our speakers. Durham has a lot of really amazing women doing some amazing things. Please reach out with any questions that you might have, and thank you again for joining us.